All right, so we have the most controversial subject. Everyone seems to have an opinion on this. It's relating to sex education in schools. Now, I've spoken to all types, and I've heard both sides of the argument. It is a very sensitive subject, and I think both sides do a good job or a bad job of falsifying information to push their narrative. Should sex be taught in school?
As a contained question, yes, absolutely. Children need to learn about it. They need to have the resources. They need to have the knowledge. I think the issue with what's happening with when you're seeing like protests, Canada and U.S., I think what you're seeing is kind of a thinly veiled attack on the LGBTQ community. I think those sort of biases are getting sort of wrapped up in the idea of education, because a lot of it is focused on teaching children about genders. Again, I think that's important to teach. That's not an agenda. That's something that manifests in society. It's real. It's worth studying. We've had experts study it, put together literature, and it's absolutely there. So why not teach them? There was a question about the age.
Yeah.
What age is too soon? I think I remember reading in Ontario, it's grade 8, where they learn about kind of the gender spectrum, and a little bit earlier when they learn about sex ed. I could be wrong. I'm happy to kind of learn more about that, but yeah, I just think that a lot of the talking points as well in the U.S., because I think the U.S. kind of approached this issue first. More in the summer. I think they're talking about like drag shows and transgender people reading to kids and how that was inherently evil, which is it's not at all. We're sort of co-opting some of those talking points when we talk about parents' rights, when we talk about indoctrination. Again, these are all things we hear about straight from the Republican Party. Fox News talks about this, and then we end up using it. We're saying, what about parents' rights? The Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms doesn't speak to parents' rights at all.
Yeah.
There's nothing in there. There's court law that says parents can act in the best interest of their child. That's as far as parental rights go. And indoctrination, another term that we kind of just use to say like, hey, we don't want the far left pushing their agenda on us. It's not indoctrination to say like, here's something that exists in society. How would you like to learn about it, right? But I suppose the only thing I'm kind of undecided on is what the best age is.
Exactly. That I think that I was gonna say that exact thing. It's not necessarily about the content, but it's about when they are learning this. And I think a lot of parents feel that if my child learns about this at school, they're going to come home with a lot of uncomfortable questions, which I don't know how to answer. But I will say, for parents who don't think their kids are not being exposed to this online, the moment you hand them a phone, and you may be handing them a phone for the most altruistic reasons, safety, number one, but they are on the internet and they are being exposed to this stuff, and not only on the internet, but also in their peer groups, right? And sooner or later, they're going to need to have some kind of organized presentation of this topic. It's a matter of when. Do I think grade 8 is too soon? I do. I think minimum grade 10, 15, 16. But a lot of parents would argue and say, by 15 and 16, my kid was seeing this, this, and this on the internet in a total vacuum of context, right? So there will always be that tug as to when is too early. But from what I understand on this issue, parents are outraged in a lot of cases because kids are in grade 2 being exposed to this stuff.
Now, I wonder how much of it is people embellishing or, pushing as propaganda, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to falsify that, and you hear it from me and I tell it to someone else, and all of a sudden, oh my God, what is this school teaching, right? So I think that's definitely part of the...
Right, so let me be clear. If it's happening at grade 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, it's inappropriate. Inappropriate. Children cannot they don't have the context, they don't have the life experience, they don't have the education in that area to process that kind of in a mature way. Right?
But
Alex,
what
I'll get you.
information are like
What
what,
are-
information
right, so I don't-
is controversial? at
I
that
don't know
age?
the content of what they're being exposed to. All
I,
I've heard of these
from what I
stories-
understand, and I'm, you know, like I do have children. When they brought a form, they wanted basically. So in the area I live in, basically before the school teaches them, they give maybe a week or two notice, and you can fill out a form if you want to withdraw your kids from that day, right, or that class or whatever.
Okay.
So what it starts with is at age, you know, grade 2 or whatever, is like your private parts.
Okay.
Right? You know, what's appropriate, inappropriate. They're not learning about, you know, more, you know, sensitive subjects at that age.
Right.
Now, before I, you know, put my 2 cents in, I put in about one of my 2 cents so far. What say you, Alex?
Yeah, I think everything that's going on right now, I mean, at least in Canada and the States, is just it's alarming and distressing and upsetting, and it's part of our society. I think, like, without getting to gender, is part of our society. It's a social construct as well. It's completely different than like sexual behavior. So that they're not teaching in grade 2 or even grade 5 or well, I actually don't know. It's been a while since I've done sex ed,
Right.
but I was in grade 5 when we did sex ed, and it was just, here are the private parts.
Right.
Here's a condom. Like, good luck.
You were learning what a condom was in grade 5?
It rings a bell.
Yeah. Because I went to school under the British system during those years, so I don't remember. That was not in the British system, which, by the way, because of colonialism, is the system under which the vast majority of people go to school on this planet. Sex ed is not something that's taught.
Right.
You learn hardcore educational topics.
Sure.
Right.
Right? You don't learn about sex ed, good or bad.
Right.
Right? Just to let people know out there,
Yeah, that's
under that system, this is not something that's taught. Here in North America, it's something, right?
So I would say, if you asked me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe a bit longer, I would have definitely been the side of like, you know, should kids be exposed to this or that? Over the last few years, I've learned a lot, right? People that you know, right? That relatives, right? Especially female. It's like, I think all females that I've heard, and maybe there's maybe 3 or 4, 5 people that I've come to know, and some of the stories that I've heard of abuse at age 5, 6, like I'm talking about disgusting acts, and mainly from family members, right? And they didn't speak a word of it till they got, you know, in their like mid 20s or 30s, right? And they've been traumatized.
Yes.
Right? Disgusting things. Like, human beings are like, you know, we're remarkable in so many ways, but we're such an animal in other ways, that I've changed my stance, right? I've changed it because of that, because, you know, parents are outraged and said, hey, you know, they shouldn't be learning this stuff. And I think they don't get the right information. So a lot of the information that they get are falsified. You know, maybe I'm misunderstanding, but, you know, I do have a fair bit of knowledge about it. And I think the information that people hear is falsified of what they're teaching. And they're like outraged, and I don't want to have my kids in on that. And we know what happens. The parents never teach them about it anyway.
Right.
So how does that solve
They never
anything?
learned either.
Right.
Probably. Yeah, exactly. So I think because it's this awkward subject with your children, I've never had you know, my wife is very, you know, started teaching them at, you know, grade 1, 2, probably younger, because of people that she had met that had disgusting things happen to them, that, hey, if they know about this at age 5, 6, 7, 8, would they be able to tell me or tell someone, an adult, right? Versus they have no idea and think this is normal, and I don't know what happens, right? So I think I'm definitely on the side of schools should be doing it. You know, make sure that it's for good intentions, not to like indoctrinate or sexualize children, but more for their protection,
For safety
For
purposes.
safety purposes. So I'm definitely on the side of
Right.
it does belong in the school because most parents don't do it, right? And if they did it, I would be on a different, different side of the fence. But because most parents don't, and it's an awkward subject, it might be better for a teacher or like school to teach someone.
I would agree with you. If it's for purely safety reasons,
Yeah.
and that is what the limit of the conversation is about, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, and as you said, like as soon as you give them a phone, and people are giving phones at grade 2 and grade 3 nowadays, right?
Apparently,
Yeah. So they're gonna, they're gonna learn about it, from some other method, right? So
Right. So
I
it might
think-
as well be in like a controlled environment that's
Yeah.
safe
Yeah.
Right.
with a professional that has been trained on sharing this kind of information. And also I'm kind of confused as to like what the whole sex ed conversation is too. Like I don't even know what's involved.
Content.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I still really don't
If
think
if I had to speculate, I would say it started with, they just don't feel like, I think every child, every parent, like including myself, don't want to think of their kids as knowing about it, and I think they want to push that as far as possible, as late in life as possible, right? So I think they feel as soon as they teach it in school, oh my God, they're learning about the stuff, they're going to start doing it, right? But I think if you look at it from the lens of they're doing it to protect themselves against predators, against
Right.
teenage pregnancy, whatever the case is, just to be more knowledgeable about it, I think it helps, right? But I think what happens is people are blowing out of context. They want their children to be children, stay children, and anything to do with that whole subject is bad. And I'm gonna give you 3 facts and make up 15 more things for you to believe in what I'm saying, so that way we all protest together and abolish it from schools.
Yeah, so I think where the conversation is going, at least how I interpret it based on the protests that are happening, the million-person march and all that, is less about just like sheltering our kids or what age is too soon, and more to do with what I was saying earlier about sort of transgender
Yeah.
studies. And
Yeah.
parents don't like the idea that this, again, this what they call the far left agenda is being pushed on kids. That they feel like this. You keep using the term indoctrination. They feel like trying to indoctrinate kids into this lifestyle, right? So I think that's what they're more reserved about, because that sex ed on its own should absolutely be taught. Like I also learned it in grade 5. It was just like parts, baby.
Yeah.
Good luck. No free condoms though. But the conversation seems to be headed towards that, and of course that's why I said that it seems to be kind of people using this as a platform to
Right.
profess their
Yeah.
anti-LGBTQIA+
Yeah.
rights.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Awesome.